Okay. Um, Working title for today. I don't know, I never quite know where it's going. So I have a working title always. Whether that'll actually be the title I'll put on YouTube where we store these talks, might be something else. But the working title today is The Great Work, Gift, and Path. And we want to look at these three things. Again, we're trying to, these are all soul terms: the great work, the gift, the path. Okay, so the great work, we'll start with there. Um, from a soul perspective, the great work is to become whole. Get that? That's the great work. I mean, we have jobs, we have careers, maybe. We have employment, but the great work is beyond all that. Okay, it's more like the another soul word that's been destroyed in a way is vocation. The great work is your vocation. It's what we're all called to as human beings, as heroes, to become whole, to take to somehow manage to pull all the orphaned or exiled parts of ourselves back in and integrate them and embrace them. Okay, that's the great work. That's the great work from a soul perspective. And everything else is part of it, of course, but it's not the great work. So you're if you have a job to pay the bills, if you have a career that maybe spans 30 or 40 years, maybe it's still going on. It's all fine, but it's all under the auspices of becoming a whole. Now, Carl Jung, who understood soul, if you're Jungian or if you study Jungian psychology, it includes the soul. Actually, psyche was the Greek word for soul, so psychology should be the study of the soul. And really, only the Jungians really have kept that. You know, psychology can be many things now, and it's all okay. But we're talking about trying to get a vocabulary of soul here. Uh, one of uh, one of my great friends of the community here, asked me about trying to translate what she's learning here to be able to talk to people in college and maybe people in recovery. And you can do that. Everybody yearns to be whole. To be wholeness means healthy. Yeah, everybody yearns for that. Everybody yearns for the soul dimension, whether they have language for it or not. They try to find it elsewhere. It doesn't work, and that's the yearning goes on. So here's a quote by Jung, C.G. Jung, that really gets where we're working today and where we've been working for a couple of weeks. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life, and you will call it fate. Till you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life, and you will call it fate." Very interesting. Part of the, Freud and Jung and the uh, all the depth psychologists that came in at the turn of the 20th century, uh, they said, really, we think we're controlling our life, but we're being controlled by the stuff in our unconscious. That's where all our exiled orphan selves are. That's where the wounds and traumas stored that we couldn't deal with consciously. And uh, that's making the choices. And, until we do that, until we bring, and this is part of the hero's journey, is to allow the unconscious part of ourselves, which is both bitter and sweet. Okay. You can't tell what's coming up, but until we bring it all up, uh, it's going to control us. It's ludicrous to think you're in control of your life, and that's even if everything we become totally whole, we're still not in control of, you know, everything because this great mystery we're in a part of this great mystery, but we don't control it. But still, you get a much better feel. It's a difference between going down a wild river like Santa Raft with no paddles. That's when you have all this unconscious material, and then to go down a wild river with paddle. You still can't, you're going to end up going down river. All rivers run to the sea, but you can enjoy the ride much more. Sort of going down the wild river of life with no paddle. That's sort of a definition of hell, and we've all lived that. But to go down with a paddle, that's people pay big money to do that on the Colorado and the rivers in West Virginia. Yeah, because it's exciting. Because you have a little control. You can steer a little bit. But you're all going to go downriver. See, yeah. So that's I had a screensaver. If you came in late, you didn't see it. Of from The Empire Strikes Back, where Luke is going into the swamps of Dagobah, another planet. It's all swampy, and he meets Yoda, who's going to who he's looking for. And he turns out to be not like Ben Kenobi, but like a little miniature 900-year-old green, scaly, tweaking ears with a lot of hair coming out of his ears master. And that's a little tip off right there what's going to happen there, because he was going there to get trained, but it's swampy. It's very much like the descriptions of Beowulf's Lake. If you made the Saturday thing, it's swampy, sort of dark, everything overhung, and that's one of the images of the dark wood that Dante goes into, or the jungle that Buddha went into, or the wilderness that Jesus went into. You see, it's all images of going and facing that unconscious material. You see, and the hero always does that. And if you're here, you're called to it. Okay, so I'm gonna. We'll be able to riff a little bit more out of that. And in this case, he's going to go into a cave, which is also in almost every Disney film you watch. There's a cave, and magical things happen there. Surprising things happen there. I talk about the cave of the heart. Same thing. Okay, so we're going to watch a little 3-minute clip, if the technology works, from the Empire Strikes Back, and then we'll come out of that and learn a few things about what it means to go into the cave. Hopefully you can hear Yoda. You have to sort of tune your ear to Yoda. Anyway, let's see if we can do this. That's where the technology gets me sometimes. All right, where are we? Yeah, 3 minutes from Empire Strikes Back.
There's something not right. I feel cold.
That place is strong, but the dark side of the Force, a domain of evil it is. And you must go.
What's in there?
Only what you take with you. Your weapons. You will not need them.
uh, hopefully you could see that, right? I could see it anyway. It's one of my favorite parts of all of the nine films in the Star Wars saga, really. Okay, so some things about that you might have noticed. Um, there's a little dialogue. Luke's something's calling him, but he doesn't know what. And it feels cold. He says, and then he said, "Well, what's in there?" And Yoda says, "Only what you take with you." Interesting. Only what you take with you. Yeah. I could say the same. We're going to talk about the path of meditation too, and uh, what's down in the cave of the heart? Well, only what you take with you. And he was feeling apprehensive. He was feeling a little bit uh, afraid. Interesting. R2 pops up a couple of times, and R2 did. He didn't want to have anything to do with this going into the cave stuff. So R2 is a mind. It is the strategic mind. It's that part that doesn't want to. Don't go, Luke. He's probably beeping. But but he goes anyway. And then Yoda says, "This is Yoda speak." Yoda speak is always the thing's turned around. He says Luke starts to go, and then he says, "Your weapons, you will not need them." A normal human being would say, "You will not need your weapons," but Yoda always talks like in Yoda speak. Your weapons, you will not need them. Well, then of course, if you noticed, he takes his weapons with him. It's exactly like echoes of Beowulf, where he's told by the kind of wizened old guy, "Hey, you can't go in there with your sword. Sans weapons." Well, anyway, he takes his weapons. What do you meet in there? Oh, you will meet what you take with you. He took his weapons, and you see, very interesting. And then you know, before Darth Vader appears. He appears as a shadow. I mean, it's just classic stuff. And then lightsabers battle, you know, and then when he takes his head off, another great, interesting. This is all great. He's pulling on all the great symbols from both Jung and the Tao and all these other things. Uh, it seems when he actually sees what's behind the mask, he sees his own face. Of course, he doesn't know that this is his father. He doesn't know he's Darth's son, and there's a lot to that. There's a lot to that. Yeah, yeah. The whole, it's about your relationship to your upbringing. The whole thing is that's where so much in our uh, uh, unconscious, our subconscious, is material that happened during our growing up. Okay, and you face even though he screwed up in a way, he took his weapons, he still has to face. Um, he still got some wisdom there. That's part of the gold that you carry away. You see, the gold that the dragon is sitting on, or in the lair like this cave, is you come out with insight. Later, he'll have the big battle at the end of it with Darth Vader, and Darth cuts off his sword hand and tells him to come with him. And there's a great scene. If you've never seen The Empire Strikes Back, some people have never seen any of Star Wars. It would be watch the second one, because gets his hand cut off, the sword falls out, and then he says, "Come with me, come around to the dark side." And he says, "I'll never follow you." And then he lets go with his other hand and just falls through this immense space. Well, I won't tell you what happens then, and if you've seen the movie a few times like I have, you know what happens. But he lets go rather than go to the darkness. So this is a journey that we all have these dark impulses. When I see awful stuff, I know myself that, gee, I'm capable of that. I could do that. You're kidding yourself if you don't think in a certain situation you couldn't do um, the most awful things. That's what you find out when you follow this path. So he was finding out about that. So that's the work really. You got to unpack that. Now the gift is what you find out about yourself. That your reason for being um, is important. You know, sort of post whatever we are, post period of consciousness. We think, you know, a lot of people think that we're just random matter and nothing means anything and etc. Well, I don't believe that. At least my life hasn't taught me that. We're here for a reason, just as much as an acorn is here to become an oak tree. We're here um, to find out what our gift is. A poem I wrote a while back. Actually, it's the first poem in the first book that I ever published, Green Bamboo. It's called What Matters. It goes like this: because you matter. And the fact when you realize that your life makes a difference, you're here for a reason to do something, changes things. It's the first poem in that first book. It says, it doesn't matter well if the world chooses to accept or reject your gift of love. It doesn't matter if the world chooses to accept or reject your gift of love. It only matters, it only matters that you love the world in the way you are meant to love it. So that was the first poem in the first book. And I think it's still true. Doesn't matter if the world chooses to accept or reject your gift of love. Think of Van Gogh. Lifetime, nobody bought any of his paintings, maybe one. He just did them because that was the gift to the world. It'd be great if he could see into the future to see how much those paintings have changed people, you see. Doesn't matter though that if you have to keep that in your heart when you're meeting, you're trying to give your gift, and the gift that you have to give to the world, the way you're meant to love the world, that evolves with you. I thought my gift to the world when I was 15 was basketball, because that's what I practice all the time. I practice after practice, and I was totally obsessed with that. And that was the first training that I really went through. Maybe toilet training, probably, but and so it evolves. And then when I went to college, I thought that my gift to the world was reading the great books. My father said, "What the hell are you going to do with your life? Just read books?" I said, "Yeah, maybe so." You could do that kind of stuff in the 60s. So it only matters that you love the world in the way you're meant to love it. And that gift will evolve. The ways that you can love the world evolves as we evolve. Okay. And then finally, so that's about the gift. That's a good koan. What is my gift? Don't know. That might be the best way to work with it. What is my gift? Don't know. But the world needs everybody. It needs all 8 billion of us trying to figure out our gift, because the gift won't ever be chopping heads off. The gift won't. The gift that you're meant to give is a gift that will heal the planet, not hurt the planet. I'm convinced of that, just based on observing a life, at least from my point of view. That's all I can share. Now the path. So that's the work and the gift, and then the path is the only path I know to find this stuff out. Just like he had to walk down this path into the cave, is meditation in all its forms. That's the path, and it could be formal sitting meditation, which we're going to practice in a minute. It could be Tai Chi, it could be yoga. There's lots of meditational paths. Mindfulness, just moment by moment mindfulness. Taking a walk, because when you go out in nature, the Japanese call that bathing in the forest, when you go out in the big world. world that's not a concept that surrounds you when you walk just out in nature. Um, there's a lot of, for me, writing is meditation. Was from Merton. I learned from him, that you sit in silent meditation and then you write to find out uh, what's trying to come through but still blocked. So that's why we give you that option. Yeah. But all of it, all the form, if it's a meditational form, you plant wisdom. Some people, uh, the indigenous people use plant wisdom to get but all of that goes to become more intimate with the sacred mystery. Are we becoming more intimate with the mystery that surrounds us, that we are a part of, or are we not? Yeah, that seems to be the true test of whether if it's meditation or not, in whatever form. The Sufis' world, that's their form. That's one brand of Sufis' world. Not all of them do, but it doesn't matter. There's so many ways you can become intimate with the great mystery, with the sacred mystery. You see, so that's the path. Unless you have some way of becoming intimate with the great mystery, you'll always feel separate from it. You feel like you don't belong, which is a modern state of being for a lot of people. I don't think our indigenous brothers and sisters, and going back 100,000 years, I don't think that was part of the problem. Hunger might have been, or animals, or whatever, cold, hot, heat, but this feeling of not belonging, their whole life was built around belonging wherever they were. That's a modern problem. And meditation brings you into intimacy. Otherwise, it's not a good form of meditation, you see. It's not meditation at all. Okay, well, I think that's enough to get us started.